Hello and welcome to Goal Power. This is a new series looking at how I bullet journal, set goals and generally organise my life here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki, and if you are looking for any knitting and crochet content, you can find my bi-weekly podcast Tea and Possibilities also on this channel. Like most bullet journalers, I have daily trackers which I use to start and to motivate myself to keep going with good habits. When it comes to my bullet journal, I like to maintain a really minimalist format. So I only have 3 trackers that I regularly use. At the moment, it is 4 because I am using my quarantine tracker, which I talked about in the previous video. My usual 4 daily trackers are mood, finances, and my menstrual cycle. So let's take a quick peek at those daily trackers, how I use them, how I've set them up, and why they're important to me. Here we are back in my bullet journal. Let's take a look at those daily trackers. First up is my year in pixels. I have had this, I think, in every bullet journal I've ever had, and this is my 3rd. I think most bullet journalers use this. I don't know who the idea originated with, but it is amazing, and it is 100% not my idea. But basically, you use the dotted grid format of the Leuchtturm notebook to make a grid that has 12 months along the top and 31 days along the bottom. I always use grey when I'm setting up any grids or any tables because I just find it is a good neutral without being as heavy as black. I then use the grey to fill in where they're shorter months, so for example February 28th, 28 days, and other months are only 30. I then set myself a key. In a previous incarnation of this, I went the other way. Because purples and blues are among my favourite colours, I use those to denote the positive days and the kind of more yellowy orangey colours to denote the more negative days. However, I noticed when I filled in the complete year of pixels, it was predominantly cool colours, blues and purples, which made it overall look like quite a bad year. Also, I have a lot more warmth towards yellow and orange, no pun intended, these days. So I decided to go for traditionally cheerful colours down to traditionally blue or sad colours. And as you can see, December to April so far has, despite everything, been fairly positive. It is literally a case of deciding how your day went at the end of the day and colouring it in based on these little emojis. That simple, and it's a really nice thing to look back on at the end of the year. Next up is my financial year in pixels. Now I started this in the January, so about a month after my mood year in pixels. And as you can see, it's literally the exact same setup. It is 12 boxes this way, 31 this way, with the grey pen filling in where there are only 28 days and 30. There are a few more colours on this, and instead of it being about mood, it's about spending. So I broke down my spending into 0 spend days, 1 to 5, 5 to 15, 15 to 30, 30 to 50, and 50 plus. Now, generally at the top of the month, these are always going to be red because that's when my rent comes out, that's when my direct debits tend to come out. But on the whole, I'm trying to keep my days as blue as possible. Now, the reason for this is because I have mentioned on my podcast, Tea and Possibilities, that I am hoping to get a mortgage as soon as possible. As a single person, this is a little bit more difficult to do, so I really need to save hard. And a lot of my spending is buying coffees and buying lunch at work, and I can actually save a lot of money by not doing that. Now that I'm working from home, I'm really trying to keep my days black and dark blue as far as possible. It hasn't been easy because it's very easy to decide to treat yourself and to buy things to give yourself that quick boost. And I don't worry about that too much. I don't try to beat myself up about that. And this is what I want to make really clear. This tracker is 100% not about making yourself feel bad. Here I had a couple of days where I spent over £50 and I don't feel bad about that at all. I don't think money is a stick to beat yourself with, but it's just something I want to be aware of because it will ultimately get me to my end goal of having my own place, having my own mortgage, and that's something that is really important to me right now. Next up, we have my quarantine tracker. Once quarantine is over, I will not be using this anymore, but I did do a video on this in particular, so I won't dwell on this too much, but it's just about tracking some good habits that I can maintain during quarantine so that I can refer back at the end of the day and see that there were some positive things that I did with my day. Next up is my period tracker. I use a little tab on this page so it's easy to flick to as it's something I use daily, but it makes things a bit tricky to see, so I'm going to pull that off for a moment. I set this up pretty much exactly like my quarantine tracker. It really was heavily inspired by my quarantine tracker. I've got 8 equal columns across the middle here with a 1 box column either side with the numbers 1 to 36. As you can see, it's a fairly new tracker, so I haven't filled it in very much. But what I do is I put the date of the first day of my cycle at the top. I use colours to track how long my period is and how heavy or how light. I also track when I spot. And then at the end of the cycle, I put the date. So I put the date here so I can see that the last day was the 24th day of my cycle. I then go up to start a new one by putting the date up here. I'll fill it in and then I will just check in daily to see if there's anything I need to add to this. It's usually only at the beginning and end of my cycle. It's usually only necessary at the beginning and end of my cycle, but should anything irregular happen in the middle, it's good to be able to make a note of it here. Over time, I will have 8 cycles all next to each other and I will be able to see by the dates and by using the numbers at the side if my periods are fairly regular, if there is a lot of irregularity, if the length of my periods or the spotting, if any of that deviates from my average or my normal, it's good to know. So that's that. That is my daily trackers and that is how I use them. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you'll be back soon for some more goal power. Take care, bye.